Good, 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 good.
Firstly, thank you very much for accepting my invitation and accepting to be on my show.
Great, yep, happy to be here.
So I thought to introduce you to my audience and tell about the work that you are doing to my audience.
Great, sorry, I'm still updating Windows here as we're talking. I don't use Skype that often. Say again?
So I thought to tell about you and the work that you are doing to my audience. Can you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah, sorry, I'd be happy to. So I'm Wayne Haber, and one of the directors of engineering for GitLab.
So you're from?
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S.
Awesome. So I've gone through your profile and I saw you are a writer also. You are into books. You are a continuous learner, and for every month you learn something.
Absolutely, it's always fun to learn new things. Sometimes it can be very intimidating when you get started. So you get frustrated, you don't know, you get stuck on things. But I try to learn many things. Like recently learned the Flutter development language for mobile and other types of app development. And also recently got back to writing some Python code, for example, to do some automated monitoring, which is very different, both of those things, than my normal job of basically doing technology and people leadership at a company like GitLab. But it's also fun to do things like that as well, and also of course learn to play video games again, which I had not done for years and just started again recently. For example, we recently got into Overcooked 2, which is a lot of fun, silly little game. It's easy to play and very hard to master, but a lot of fun.
So when you become an engineering director for GitLab,
About 2 years ago.
so before that,
Before that, I was had a similar role at a subsidiary of Dell.
so how was that experience?
It was great. It's the transition was great. The but previously I worked primarily in security, of doing internet security, and it's a very challenging world, as you're not only trying to build things for your customers, but also look at the anti-patterns, as we like to call them, of what the bad actors are doing, and find that middle ground in between as appropriate. And at GitLab, I work a little bit in security, but I also work at building security solutions as I did before, but also building things for the growth team, which connects users with the features in the product, the fulfillment teams that do all the billing and licensing, and also some new teams such as anti-abuse to prevent abuse of the platform, which is a newer group in engineering. And similar to what I did in the past, but also applied machine learning. I'm applying machine learning to the DevOps lifecycle. And lots of new things to learn and lots of great things going on.
So all these responsibilities are different from each other. So how you are able to do two different things?
That's a great question. So I'm able to do different things is we hire great people and give them the latitude to succeed. So for example, the person who runs the applied machine learning team, an anti-abuse team, she is an expert in machine learning. I am not. I know just enough to understand, but she knows it so much better than I do. So I make sure that she has the context for the team on what the goals are and the guardrails are for the team, but she handles all of the details and figures out how to achieve those goals. Similarly in growth, growth is a little bit easier to pick up than machine learning. It's still a big space, but not as big as machine learning. But growth hacking, as it's called, it's a lot of statistics combined with engineering, combined with almost kind of marketing skills, and it's very interdisciplinary. And I've learned just enough to really help guide the team, but the person who runs the team, who happens to be based in New Zealand, does a great job of doing that. And worth noting is GitLab is very distributed around the world. I think we have team members, aka employees, I think in 35, perhaps even more countries. I think it's actually more countries. So like I mentioned, the first person, she's in Australia. The other person who runs the growth team is in New Zealand. And then the person who runs the other team, my fulfillment, actually is in Western Canada. And our team members are spread out all over the place. So my team is about 50 people, I think my relatively, moderately sized team, I think we're in 15 different countries. There's 50 people, including a couple in India and South Africa, Iceland, Hawaii, just all over, Singapore, all over the place.
So how is this experience managing diverse people from different parts of the world?
I really enjoy it. You have to have an open mind and consider not only different time zones, where what we do that's probably where you start we work very asynchronously. GitLab is an all remote company where we don't have any offices anywhere, not one. 1,300 plus employees and not one office anywhere. So, and we have people spread out all over the world. So we work asynchronously, primarily in writing. And in the product itself, we use the product to develop the product. Our customers use it to develop software as well. And so we do communication in writing whenever possible, in issues or merge requests, aka pull requests, or if that doesn't work on a particular thing, we'll use Google Documents or Slack. When we do meetings, we take a really good notes in advance of the meeting of what we want to cover. We take really good notes during the meeting, and we also record the meetings and make them available sometimes to the internet when we can, and internally, so people who didn't want to or couldn't attend in real time, synchronously, can still participate, both in learning what happened, but also putting their questions in advance. So let's say you and I didn't have any time zone overlaps, and you put a question in. Not only will we cover it, somebody else will read it. Say, well, Sai's not here, but he said this, and then we'll answer it. The second thing is you have to understand different cultures and different ways of working. So there's no explicit company holiday on a particular day that's based on holiday schedules, because every country has different holidays. So you have to keep track of that, and different things about taking care of family, and when people we're very much about results, not hours worked, but the results that people achieve. So some people have small kids at home, some people have elderly relatives that they take care of, and it makes their schedules less predictable, but that's great. That's just fine for us. So understanding it, and different communication styles as well. In different countries, some people are more direct, some people are less direct with communication. Like, is this project on schedule? Is a very charged question. You get different answers often from different cultures, or how close people want to be personally. So in some cultures, they want to be very close, and in some cultures, they would rather be more more distance personally, and that's fine too.
So engineering director, so how you are able to manage this position? Because it's something which you have to understand the calculation, analysis, the management, and you have to direct things. So how you are doing things from last 2 years?
So it's about setting guardrails for the team. So here's the things to accomplish, and here's the safety net, the safety guardrails, and then letting them figure out how to do it. And then watching how things go, and always being available for questions, and then looking for opportunities. So both in looking at other technologies that can be used, other ways of doing things that the team may not be thinking about, bringing them context from other parts of the organization that I may be looped into is important, and then checking on things. So I love to see demos of functionality. So I try to not get involved in the details of implementation, because I'll just slow the teams down. Instead, I'd love to see a demo or a written plan of how we plan to implement something, or things like that. We also look at various metrics, like we look at reliability metrics, on how well the system is operating, how available it is, what the performance is, the efficiency of the team, also the morale of the team. We do little pulse surveys on that, and then also do Ask Me Anything sessions inside the company to get feedback, and also do one-on-one skip level discussions as well to get feedback on how things are going on the positive side, and also on the things we can improve side.
So what are the key points that are working for your construction?
The key points are to set the guardrails and get out of the way of your team so they can succeed. Just be available to them and keep an eye on things, but don't get in the way. And then making sure they're aware of the key metrics on on morale, on efficiency, on quality, and then letting them figure out how to achieve them.
So doing things in different ways. Can you explain in detail?
Doing things in different ways. So it might be, for example, most of GitLab for the data store is we use we use Postgres, and then also Redis as data stores. And it's great. They work really well. There's other options as well. Like we've thought about ClickHouse is another great data store. We've thought about Cassandra. We've thought about some NoSQL database, other NoSQL databases as well, like Hadoop and things like that. And the team may not have skills in those specific technologies, or they may even not have awareness of the pros and cons. So it's bringing that to them. Now, these are the kinds of things that we should consider. So looking at alternate ideas, which may be horrible ideas, but sometimes, occasionally, they're good. They're great ideas, and they should be considered. So it's bringing those kinds of things, or this part of the company is using this technology. Maybe we should consider it. Or this part of the company is using some different way of collaborating for engineering stand-up meetings, for example. And not to say that we should do those things and force it upon the team, but have them consider it so they have different ideas.
So what are the services that you're providing?
Say again?
What are the services that you're providing?
At GitLab specifically?
Yeah.
Yeah, so GitLab is basically in my opinion, one-stop shop for DevOps. Planning the code, planning features, developing the code, testing the code, deploying the code, securing the code, monitoring the code, all across the board in one product. And it works really well. People can either run it, use our cloud-based service, or they can run it themselves. And in their own environment, their own data center, their own cloud, AWS or Google or Azure, for example. And there's free versions that have quite a bit of functionality for both in the cloud and for people running it themselves. And then also paid versions that have more features, like more security features and other features that companies want. But it's free for use. A large percentage of the product is free for use for anyone, which is great because it lets people learn it and use it. Students can use it, open source enthusiasts can, people can do it with their side projects, etc. And that works out quite well.
So you mentioned that you do one-to-one sessions and you take feedbacks in order to give the quality service to your customers and your clients. So how good the service of yours? So what are your clients saying about your service?
Yeah, what I'd say, I don't speak with the customers directly very often. That's other people's jobs, like in support and in product management. Although I do some of the time. As often, I do it some of the time. I'd actually like to do it more often, and I should be doing that. What I'd say is, when I do these skip levels, it's with the employees of the company who report to one of the managers who report to me, and I'll ask them open-ended questions like, "What are you excited about? What are you happy about? What are you worried about? What could we be doing better?" I also try to be vulnerable, so they're comfortable sharing with me and tell them what I think is going well, what I think could be improved, what I'm happy about, what I'm not happy about. And the more vulnerable I am with sharing that, the more likely they're willing to open up with me. And with some people, some personalities, but also some cultures, they open up very, very quickly and have a lot to say with feedback. Sometimes it takes a long time, maybe 6 months, to really get that person's trust. And then you get great feedback then as well. But so that's some of the fun of different cultures. Working with so many different cultures is learning those things and just understanding people from different parts of the world.
So how many country people are using your cloud services?
Oh, it's I don't know the exact numbers, but it's quite a few. It's worldwide and thousands and thousands of customers.
So tell me about your team. How good they are working?
The team is working well. The growth and fulfillment and applied machine learning is we've got a lot to do, and more. If we did everything that everyone wanted, we would need a team 20 times the size, perhaps. Even if we wanted to do the things that are in the top priority list, we'd probably need 5 times the current size. So we have to choose very carefully what we work on based on the impact to our users and the business, etc. And there's no lack of great ideas. It's all about execution. It's about implementing those ideas and implementing them well and quickly and as iteratively as possible is key. So not waiting for the perfect thing and designing it out for months and then delivering it. It's delivering it in bits and pieces so you can get feedback as you go, and iteration is very key to the company, and is one of the things that makes us work well, in my opinion.
So this experience of working in different, completely different fields, different roles, how this helped you uh, in your direction of thinking and making your leadership great?
I think it's bringing different perspectives of, like before I worked in security, for example, I worked in healthcare technology, like for hospitals. And if you think about the healthcare space, is that you have to be very careful. It's a different kind of set of users you're trying to please. Physicians versus nurses versus lab techs versus administrators, and there's real health on the line. So you want to do a great job of presenting the correct health information, for example, in systems. And they're also a regulated industry, so you want to make sure you keep patient privacy at the forefront. Moving into security, there are some similarities. You have a very different set of user base, but you also have people trying to break things for profit or other reasons, while also providing features for your users and not interrupt legitimate users. You go into like growth and abuse at GitLab. There are actually teams that are sometimes in opposition of each other. Growth is about getting more users. Abuse is about restricting abusive users. So they're doing spam on the platform and things like that. And sometimes you turn the knob on growth and it increases abuse, or you turn the crease on abuse and it hurts growth. So we try to find that in-between step you can't keep everyone happy all of the time, but kind of taking those experiences across the teams is very, very helpful.
So you said that working with different country people makes you learn a lot. So what are the things that are common in every country person?
Common in every between countries is that we as a company have a very stringent hiring practice where we hire people who have the skills we need, but also where they have a high interest in the company and it's a values fit. So some people are great on, some candidates are great except on some of the values, which doesn't make them bad people at all. It just means it's inconsistent. For example, if they really like working in an office with lots of people around them, even pre-pandemic, that wouldn't be a good fit for us. If that's what they prefer versus collaborating with people around the world, or if they prefer to communicate in meetings versus in written, that's not a bad thing, but that's not a fit for us. So we have this combination of people across the world that just have a really good fit on our values like transparency, on remote work, on asynchronous communication, and that are really, really good at what they do. So as I like to call it, we have high talent density, but we also have high value density, in my opinion. So I'm always learning new things. I've been at the company for 2 years, and I learn things from my teams, from my coworkers, from reading the GitLab handbook, which is primarily open to the public, about how the company operates, and in areas that I know about, and areas I have no idea about, that I learn about, which is a lot of fun.
So you said you are a continuous learner. So how you use your 24/7?
I spend a lot of time reading, and I read for fun and also for learning things. So like right now I'm reading a science fiction book and at the same time reading a home repair book. Very different things. And I also take classes occasionally on LinkedIn Learning, and which I found some good ones there. That's where I found the class on Flutter, which was Flutter at mobile app development, which was great. Find things on YouTube. Like originally I learned NoSQL databases from a set of YouTube videos, which was great. I've also learned things in Udemy, where they're paid courses, like LinkedIn is, that if you watch the costs, sometimes they'll be very expensive, and then for 3 weeks out of the month, they drop in cost, like 90% for one. I wait for the 90% off. And I took a class on there on machine learning a while ago. And then more recently, I took a class in public speaking from a stand-up comedian, which was great. It was a great way to learn. It was very, very interesting and a great perspective to have.
So what is your driving force? What motivates you to wake up in the morning and do a lot of things?
It's a great question. Sorry. I'd say what motivates me is a couple different things. I really like seeing the teams succeed in doing great things for the users and for the company. So if we release a new feature and we see a lot of usage of it, we get a lot of great feedback from the users, whether it's paid users or free users, or we see an increase, we may do that and the users don't notice, but we see an increase in performance, or we see an increase in revenue in a certain area. That makes it just really happy to see those end results. Also, I like to see the team learning new things and kind of expanding their horizon. So when someone says they learned something new, or they're really excited about something, that really that speaks to me a lot too. Because if we're just doing the same things over and over again, we can do that for a little while, but that gets boring quickly, and then people aren't as happy about their professional life, in my opinion, if they're not learning new things and trying new things at least occasionally.
So how you reduce the loopholes that you have, and how you reduce the errors that you're getting?
The loopholes and the
Errors.
errors. Oh, so we monitor for errors in the system in various ways. We use a lot of things that you can find in the free Google Site Reliability Engineering book, SRE book. Things like error budgets. So for example, what percentage of what percentile of the requests to the product, either services or web application requests, take more than 5 seconds, take more than 8 seconds, take more than 10 seconds. And also what percentage of those requests are succeeding versus failing. And we set goals based on that so we can catch long-term trends, medium to long-term trends in error budgets. And then, because you don't want to go for 0 errors. If you go for 0 errors, you're not moving fast enough. You're not taking enough risk. You want to have an error budget for enough errors. We also look at the system in real time as well, or near real time. It's not what was the error budget last month and how did we do, but also how is the system doing right now? What's the availability? And we'll pull the system and look at logs in real time and make sure it's available and performing. And then we also get feedback from the users anecdotally in our forums, in bugs that people can file, and also monitor social media for what people are saying to make sure that we're keeping track of what users are thinking, in LinkedIn and Twitter and our own forum and Hacker News, the Y Combinator site, etc. In Reddit and other places.
So how fast the time plays major role in shifting their infrastructure to the cloud. So how fast you are able to do that for the clients?
So for us, when we release a change to the product, it goes through once the developer develops it, then it's reviewed by somebody else on the team, a reviewer, and then a maintainer reviews it, and sometimes multiple maintainers, depending on what areas of the product it impacts. Once the maintainer approves it and the automated test cases succeed, which happened a little earlier, then it rolls out. And we do multiple production rollouts to our software as a service, our cloud-based service, a day, which is good. So once it's ready and of high quality, we roll it out. But also, all the checks and balances don't always catch everything, so we're also ready to roll it back. Either via software rollback or a feature flag to turn that feature off after it, if it proves to not be working appropriately, which we monitor in these same ways I mentioned, like availability and performance.
So not all clients have technical knowledge. So how your team are able to communicate and connect and give the quality service?
Most of our users are the primary users are software developers of GitLab, so they are very technical. And the great thing is that we are building a product ourselves as software developers that are used by software developers. And we call that term dog fooding, where we use our own product to develop our product, because that's what our users do as well. But there are less technical users who use GitLab as well, or use it, maybe technical people who use it in different ways. So you're not limited for just developing code, for example, and deploying code and testing code, but you can also build websites, static websites, in something called GitLab Pages, where you're just writing them in Markdown or other languages like that. I think you can do HTML as well, and I think a couple other things. And there, we describe the product and how it can be used, and how users can get benefits of not just like, for example, editing the markdown directly, but using merge requests to manage the change for a request to merge a change to validate it, and then have multiple builds of it, so that the pages can be validated and approved by people who review them, etc. And you can have change logs. And for a very simple, web page, that's not needed. But for something more complex, that can be very useful, especially if there are many people editing it. You may also have people using it who are not going to write code, but want to plan out work, like issues, which we call issues, to track units of work, and they can add them, relate them to each other, add comments on them. And I think, if I remember correctly, someone mentioned that they use, I think they're a product manager at GitLab, so they're not writing a lot of code, but they are planning out a lot of issues and epics, which issues are grouped into for work. And I realized, this would be a great way to plan chores for my kids at home. So they use GitLab, a free account, to plan who's going to do the dishes, who's going to take out the garbage, whose job it is to go to the store, etc., and plan that out actually in GitLab. So it can be used for many different things.
So while taking feedback, and what do you say to your team while telling about the users' experiences?
We tell the team is to keep an eye on issues filed for the things that we develop, and then also customer surveys. We do these NPS, Net Promoter Score surveys, which are great to get feedback from the users, and feedback from the product managers who speak to many, many different users, free users and customers, to understand their needs, so we can understand how things are being perceived and used.
So do you have customers from India?
I'm sure we do. We have customers from all around the world. We not only have employees in India, or team members in India, like many other countries, but also I'm sure we have many, many customers in India as well. I don't know which ones off the top of my head. Actually, I do have a list here of some of our top customers. We can't talk about all of them, of course, but includes Ticketmaster, Jaguar, Land Rover, NASDAQ, the Dish Network, Comcast, and there's many others on the website. Those are just some examples.
So tell me, you as a startup investor.
Yes, I do a little bit of that, and it's a lot of fun, evaluating ideas and talking to startups about what they do, how they do it, and give them ideas and help them out in other ways.
So you as a leader.
Say again?
You tell me, you as a leader.
Tell me as a leader. I would say some of my things, being a leader, it's really about servant leadership, is being there for your team, getting out of their way so they can succeed, pointing out things that they can improve upon, and giving them candid feedback. Generally giving positive feedback in public and constructive feedback in private, although sometimes constructive feedback should be done in public if that somebody said something or did something that should be public as a learning opportunity for the whole team and showing what's acceptable. But it's being there for your team. The team will succeed if you give them the guidance on how to succeed. You let them figure out how to succeed in their own way, and keeping an eye on things and giving them advice, but letting them figure out how to succeed, because they're much closer to the details, and they'll figure it out much better than I will, where I'm not up to speed on the details like they are.
So as an engineering director, out of 100, how much percentage you are able to reach the expectations of your customers or the clients?
It's a great question. We are very, very iterative, more iterative than any company I've ever seen, of developing in small pieces and releasing it and getting feedback. And we work very asynchronously, not in meetings, not everybody in the same time zone, waiting on each other to release something. So we get a lot done, but it's not always easy to predict a due date, when something will be done, with all the different moving parts and dependencies. So we get a lot done And we explain that to our customers and our users, that we get a lot done, but we're not always predictable about when. But sometimes we have to be predictable about when. And when we are, we do that. And I'd say we're as good as most of the companies I've worked at, perhaps a little better in some cases. And then occasionally we're not. We're something that everything doesn't go according to plan, and you know, we missed a step. Someone somewhere missed one important step, and we said it would be done on week X, and it's done week X plus 1. You know, we're generally in pretty good shape there. But sometimes there's an extra step or two that wasn't done, and we have to revisit. But we're pretty good about meeting expectations.
So how many books you have done? How many books you read?
Written myself?
Yeah, because you read every week.
Oh, books. Last year, I think I did a book a week, 52. And then I regretted it afterwards, because I found myself at the end of the year speed reading, which I really didn't want to, just to do a book a week. So I'm actually trying to not track that this year. I'm actually on track for another book a week this year, but if I don't make it, I don't care. I'm just, because I want to really comprehend things I'm reading and not rush at the end. Or not enjoy myself either by reading faster, just to make a goal that I set for myself that's arbitrary and a little bit silly.
What genre?
What genre?
Yeah.
Sometimes science fiction, sometimes technical books, sometimes things about like people, leadership. So I mentioned reading a science fiction book about, what was the most recent one? One is about drones and ethical use of gene editing technology, you know, probably set in the near future, like 50 years from now. And then also read things about, home improvement, like, how to fix sinks and windows and things like that. And sometimes technical books or business books, like I read about the book on Netflix, which I thought was very interesting.
So when you are going to write a book?
I've actually written one chapter of one book many years ago, and it is a lot of work. A lot of work. And that was just one chapter. It was a book on HIPAA, the healthcare standard in the U.S., security standards. And it's one chapter, maybe 30 pages, and it was a lot of time. Probably net like 4 hours a page. Not all at one time, of course, per page, but of all the editing and rewriting. So I think about writing one someday, but it's a lot of time. And I know people who've written like technical books for O'Reilly, for example, and they said, yes, it's great, but they probably don't want to do it again. And not a negative on O'Reilly at all. It's just, it is so much work. You have to think about what it's worth it to you. Unless the book is wildly successful, it's often not a good use of your time and money-wise. You could do other things. If it's to put something great on your resume, that you wrote a book, that's great. If you just really want to do it because it's a personal goal, that's great as well. And I do know someone who wrote two technical books on O'Reilly, and they had co-authors years ago. One was on Elasticsearch, I think, and I forget what the other one was. I think the other was about security log analysis. And they used it. They said that was one of the reasons they got a job at Amazon, which was great, is they were able to show that they wrote this on this technical topic. It was a big benefit when they interviewed at Amazon. But so it's good. It's good for resumes, but it may not be a good use of time if you're trying to make money writing. Except if you're the rarity that does it for a living and is really great at it and really enjoys it, then it's probably great. But otherwise, it's a hard thing to succeed at, monetarily at least, in my opinion.
Because if you write a book that saying that the experiences that you have in different roles will help youngsters like me who are living in different parts of the world, not only a particular person, anybody can learn, because it will be connecting and it will be helpful for their personal growth and helpful in their development.
And that's what I like, rather than books, although I've considered is talk about like technical careers, both as a software developer and similar hands-on roles, and also engineering leadership roles, is to try to put a lot of information out there on LinkedIn, etc. On, like, I put my notes on the Netflix book, for example, on just my takeaways on leadership. For another one, there's a book on growth hacking. on increasing revenue and customers and growth hacking. And I just put my notes out there on my big takeaways. And I think those are great. So I plan to continue doing that. Another good book I read was called The Mom Test, which is how to test ideas and get real feedback. Because if you think about it, if you go and ask someone, do you think this is a really good idea? I'm working on it hard and my future depends on it. What are they going to say? Of course they're going to say it's a good idea. They're going to give you a mom response. They want to be, they want to be, I think this is universal in all cultures. Your mom wants to give you great feedback and encourage you. But you want to get real feedback if they really think it's a good idea. So it's like how to not add leading questions. An example in the mom test, and I talked to a startup about this not too long ago, is don't tell them what your idea is. Ask them about the problem you're solving and how they would solve it. Because if you tell them, here's my idea, what do you think? They're often not going to be honest with you because they don't want to hurt your feelings. So that's a great way to think of ideas, is to vet ideas, is to ask questions in very specific ways so that people are not disincentivized to give you real feedback. You want real feedback, not feedback to save your feelings. If you're going to base a business on it, for example. That's just one example I think was good.
So you said you'll take one course in a month from Udemy. So how many courses you have completed, and how many courses you are going to do?
When I wrote that, I aspired to do one a month. It's more like one every 3 months. Either LinkedIn or Udemy, and the one I did recently was the speaking course, public speaking course by a stand-up comedian, and he was not as funny as Russell Peters, but he was pretty funny, and switched from doing. This person did part. I don't know if he actually does stand-up comedy anymore. Now he does public speaking training, but it was great, like how to tell a story. If you're telling a joke or you're just telling somebody about something, it's about it's all about storytelling and giving people the context so they can understand the people behind the things. Stand-up comedy is not really that different from a TED Talk, for example, which he had done one TED Talk, this speaker. The one I did previously was on LinkedIn, was a Flutter software development course, and it was a lot of, as I mentioned, it was a lot of fun, and the person who put together the course talked you through step by step, and then taught you something as you did it. So it was click here and type this, and then they'd say, okay, now do the same kind of thing, but to this other part of the application. And you're like, oh my gosh, how do I do that? I was just following this nice person giving me instructions and showing me, but then you figure it out, and you get it wrong the first time, then second time, and third time, and have to restart and restore the project because you messed it all up. But then the feeling of accomplishment when you get there and do it is just great.
So your energy, your presence is giving a lot of contribution to a lot of people in your company, to your clients. How many people got affected positively and got their problem solved because of you and your presence?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't really know, of course. I'd say I get a thank you from someone about something once a week or two. So that's great. It makes me feel good. I try to give feedback as well when somebody's taught me something or helped me on something. So I try to do it as often or more often as thank someone, on LinkedIn or in the internal, company Slack, etc. And I'm sure it happens more often than people mention, but I definitely appreciate the feedback when people do. And sometimes it's in small little ways, like someone I used to work with at a previous company was let go from the company when they downsized, or when that position was downsized. And she was feeling really down on herself. She hadn't had a job in 9 months. And she kind of lost her jobs towards the beginning of the pandemic. So, when a lot of people were, and still are, of course. And I reached out to her. I hadn't talked to her in a year. And I said, how are things going? And she said, oh, she's given up. She's not going to look for a job anymore. And I said, well, send me your resume. I'll pass it around with some people I know. And lo and behold, somebody was really interested. And she said, oh, but I don't know. I don't feel qualified for that job. I said, not going to say her name, but no, I think you might be. Give it a try. Just what the job description says, they want 20 things, really lots of experience in 20 things. I think you know enough of the most important things that you'd be great for them. And she did. She interviewed. She got a job at that company and is very, very happy. So occasionally I hear things like that, which is great. And hopefully it's helpful. You know, that warms my heart when I'm able to help people on things like that and just help them kind of break through their self-imposed boundaries.
As a communicator, as an observer, as a trainer, as a guide, do you have any particular experience that you cannot forget?
Experience I can't forget is, I would say, to have humility and be vulnerable. Earlier in my career, 20 years ago, I didn't have a lot of humility. I thought I was the best, and I thought I was great at many, many things, and I really didn't listen to feedback from others. And I'm sure the people that worked for me at the time and I worked with at the time didn't like working with me that much. Now, I still talk to many of them today, and we're very cordial, but I think the people that work with me now, because I really want to listen to others, understand what they're thinking, and have a lot of respect for their opinions, because they may know things better than I do, and often do. So having that humility and not being too full of oneself and really understanding others is really key. And that was a lesson learned. If I could go back in time, I would tell the younger Wayne is really listen to other people. Don't think you know it all, because you don't. And nobody wants to work with somebody who feels that they know it all and aren't going to listen to others.
So, what are the things that made you think possible and search for the solutions and improve the problem solving ability of yours?
I would say is, and people question me on it, which is great in terms of humility and taking feedback. And I like to question people on this as well. Let's say someone has a theory or something. They may state it as a fact. If we do X, Y will change positively. And say, well, how do we know that? And they say, well, I think I know. I intuitively think I know. And that may be the case, but it's always good to test hypotheses whenever possible, not waiting for analysis paralysis, not making a decision, but testing ideas in advance before investing in them. An example might be, so I always let people know, so for example, good example is, let's see, in GitLab, we like to if people want to use the product for free, we're happy with that. If they want to use it at work, we're happy with that too. And eventually, if they really like it, we'd like them to use more features and pay for it. And we have this theory, and we've done some research, that if people use an email address that's a work email address, if they're using it for work, they're more likely to buy eventually, rather than trying it with a personal email address like Gmail or Outlook, etc. And so we have a theory that if a user puts in a public email address or a public free service like Gmail, for example, ask them, are you going to use this for work? And if so, would you like to use your work email address? And if they say no, fine, let them use their Gmail address. So because there's an assumption that if they use their work address, that they might be more likely to buy, because that's true at other companies. But we would want to test that first. We might do an experiment to say for 10% of the users, not 100%, 10% to start. If they use a free email, ask them if they'd like to use a work email instead. And then see how many do it. Because it may be that so few do it, it's not worth annoying them with this question. Or it may be just fine to do that. But we want having ideas and then doing what's possible to test them when it's appropriate to do so. To test out those ideas, either testing it live, like with doing growth hacking type techniques like that, or looking at past data, look what other companies did, or looking at past data, etc., to see what might be possible, what is likely to occur before fully investing, and putting weeks or months of engineering effort into something before implementing it. But also not waiting for every little detail to be worked out. You don't want to do that either and never make a decision. You have to get enough data.
I got you. So what worked for you, emotion or logic, in order to reach the expectations of your clients?
To reset expectations for clients, or to set them?
No, emotion or logic, which one worked for you in order to reach the expectations of your clients?
It's really a balance between the two. It's you have to definitely go with logic. I start with logic myself. Is say a customer complains, feature X does not work for me, and I'll research it. Why is it not working? Did they use it in the right way? Maybe they're using it wrong. Maybe our documentation is lousy. Maybe our UX is lousy. Maybe they just didn't get it. So look at how many other users. I'll start grabbing logical data. How many other users are having the same issue? Can we get logs for it? But it doesn't mean that user isn't really angry. So it's worth having a discussion with them to understand the emotional side as well. It may be one angry or frustrated person, or it may be hundreds or thousands. Even if it's a small issue, it could be a big, logically a small issue. If emotionally it's a big issue, that should really be paid attention to. Vice versa, if they're excited and happy about something, you might, it's something to pay attention to as well. So it's really a balance and a combination of it. You can't ignore either side. You can't go only on emotion either. This customer is excited, so excited about feature XYZ. That doesn't mean they all will be. It doesn't mean you should invest in it more. You might want, what's the market size? Is that customer unique? Is it just one person of that customer that loves it? So it can be on both sides. You have to combine both the emotional side and the logical side, in my opinion.
So about your understanding level, how fast you can able to understand anything that is observed by your senses.
Say again, Sachin?
How fast you are able to understand things that are observed by your senses.
How fast? I would say I, as many other people, have a bit of I think it's called a confirmation bias. One of the biases is that if it reinforces what I think I already know, I'll see it really quickly. If it's opposite or challenges what I think I already know is to be the case, I might not see it as readily. So I try to keep track of those biases to make sure that I'm not not overly influenced by them to understand the incoming information and really respond to it.
So what is the difference between you communicating with machine, computer, you communicating with human being?
So when communicating in writing, you get lots of notes, and issues and merge requests and Google documents, etc. You can't see the emotion behind those statements, right? You can read the notes, but there's nothing like watching. And at GitLab, most of our meetings that we do, in real time, we do it with almost everybody has video on, or most people have video on most of the time. And it's great to see people's reactions, not only when they're saying something and responding to something you just said, but even just passive in a meeting. I attend 1/3 of the meetings I'm invited to, perhaps. And I read the notes on a number of them, when I don't attend where I'm interested, and then maybe 1% of the time, maybe 5% of the time, I'll watch the recording to understand people's emotions. Like, well, this person said this and that person said that. It sounds like they're either really excited or really upset about that, or maybe both, different people in both. So I'll watch that portion of the recording and really understand the emotions behind things. And it's great when you record meetings at a company because it allows you to do things like that. You really get a feel for those things.
So what is success for you?
Success for me is seeing the team succeed, both professionally, like we're seeing features get launched, users really happy about them. It's seeing people learning new things and happy about their role. And sometimes people leave the company. And in many ways it makes me sad because, especially as somebody left recently that I think was my first hire, or one of my first hires at GitLab, 2 years ago. And she left, but she really liked her job, but she got her dream job at another company, happens to be at Netflix, and she loves Netflix so much and watching things on Netflix that I'm really happy for her because she's progressed in her career. So I love seeing people proceed in their career, whether they're working for me or not. Another person that was a share name with you that I worked with in the past, Sai, who worked with me at the previous company I was at, was a senior software engineer for many years and wanted to try out management. And people at the company told me, and I've talked about this publicly about Sai before, he's okay with that. People said, no, he's not going to be a good people leader. he's a really good engineer. I said, no, I think he might be. Let's give him a try. So I gave him a try. He worked for the company as a leader for a couple of years, and then he left and he went to Amazon, I believe. Was really successful in Amazon, and just a couple of years ago switched and went to Facebook, or Meta, I guess I should say, and is really, really happy there now. And I look back on where he was as a senior software engineer, now as a people leader, now as a leader of people leaders, and it just makes me really happy to see the progression of his career. And those kinds of things make me very happy. And then seeing the non-profit side, as well as people, succeeding at home as well, being able to do more with charities, work on open source projects, etc. When I see people doing that, I think that's great as well.
So at last, what do you say about my questioning in this conversation?
It's great. You ask great questions, and I really appreciate it. Yeah, and I appreciate us talking today. It's good stuff, and you asked me some questions I don't think I've been asked before, so that's great.
So, and
Let me ask
also,
a question of you. Why did you decide
yeah,
to start doing this podcast?
like you said, I just want to know what different people are thinking in different parts of the world, not only in my field, technical field. I want to know what other, if I understand the users' experiences of different things, I can able to create a user interface with which users can connect and communicate and can do things very faster and easier, and I can understand the time management, everything. Technology is related to communication, so I want to understand the communication system between human beings first, so that I can able to give the quality service to my tech company or tech industry.
Awesome. These are great questions, Sai. Thank you.
So, and also, what do you say about what is your observation about my videos? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
I watched a couple of them, and they're pretty interesting. You find a very diverse set of people to talk to and ask them great questions.
So, can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And send me the link afterwards after you post. I'll be happy to repost myself as well.
Yeah. Can I also put this video and audio clip on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Yes.
So, do you want me to share any links of yours with my audience?
Yeah, what I think would be good is, since we're always hiring, is I'll send it to you here. GitLab is always hiring in many different countries. I know you have listeners from many places, but maybe the GitLab job site. So you can see what kind of roles we have, etc. And then another one might be GitLab. We have a remote manifesto on how to do an all remote company. And let me give you that link too. I think people may really like that.
Yeah, I got it. So I'll share it with my audience, and I'm sure they'll get benefit because of these links.
Thanks. I have a great day.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Take care.
Appreciate you inviting me.